when we sat there and watched Marty, he ran the ball 3 down straight, and then sometimes if it was 4th and 3, he'd run the ball. It was hard because everybody knew that's what we were going to do. We were a running team. It was Marty ball. Marty ball was pound the ball down, pound it down your throat and pass here and there, and that was about it. I mean, those guys back in those days didn't have the opportunity other than Joe Montana. When he was here, he had more passing yards than any quarterback we had during Marty's tenure with us.
Yeah. I mean, you have to throw when you bring a son like him in.
Yeah.
You have to throw.
Exactly. So it just kind of, every coach has a different mentality when it comes to it. But Andy's realizing that you got to have a balance, and one opens up the other. Just is what it is.
You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. Thank you, JP. The next question is from Brett Kelly. Thoughts on the unsportsmanlike calls? All I'm going to say, Brett, is I don't think they were right. I think the NFL needs to look into these penalties and figure out a way to stop them. And we need to look at officiating crews because it seemed pretty one-sided at one point. That's all I'm going to say there with that.
Yeah, it's getting bad.
I
watched a game last week. Trying to remember who it was. Got called for taunting. He was on the opposite end of the field, running backwards, looking across the field.
Oh, you're talking about the Bears game? That Bears player.
Game. Yeah. And the referee actually stepped backwards into the player.
Hip checked the man. Hip checked him.
And
he gets called for the penalty. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's becoming ridiculous. And I think that, it's going to become worse this year before it gets better. And then they're going to probably remove that, like they removed the OPI challenge, and they removed this, and they always try something, and then they figure out that it doesn't really work, and they move forward. They get rid of celebrations. It's like you can't play back
football anymore. It's like players are going to hit. I understand some stuff is going to happen. It's kind of like, look, you got to figure out what's best for the product of the league. I mean, but I don't know, man. I just hope that the Chiefs continue to do the right thing. But whenever Rashad Fenton was doing his thing, I was like, I thought there was going to be a brawl because Mahomes came out. Like, I really thought there was going to be a brawl. But the guy was grabbing his helmet just as much.
Ripped his helmet off his head.
It is what it is. Yeah, the guy was doing just as much too. And the fans, bro, our fans at Arrowhead were not happy with them officials, especially during that call. So
no. And it's crazy too, because I can't even remember that guy's name. They're the guy they always go to ask, the retired official. They said, he said, they can't really reverse the call because New York said to. Yeah, they can, and then they basically offset the call because of the
other
face
penalty.
mask.
The guy was grabbing him just as much. This is the second time that Kansas City has been called for a penalty, and they haven't looked at what was the original cause, and they go back and right the wrong because the fans are pissed, and rightfully so. So
So the taunting thing is going to have to go away at some point because it's just
you point at someone. Oh, my life is messed up. It's silly. It's silly.
It is. It's getting old. So I mean, I don't know.
The next question is from Rare Form. Should we be worried about the offense? How about that defense? Rare Form. I think that when it comes to the offense, I'm not really worried. I just say give them more time. Obviously, they've shown they can move the ball. Now, granted, stuff's going to happen, but I think they're still working out the kinks. And I think that's important because they're figuring this out now, because you'd rather have them have these struggles now and go in the playoffs and do well, because you don't want them to go in the playoffs and struggle. That's one thing I've always known as a fan. You want them to figure out during the season before they get into the playoffs.
Yeah. I think that how should I word this? I am not worried about our offense from a player standpoint or an ability standpoint. I'm not worried, I guess I should say. I'm concerned when I see Andy calling one game out of the last, basically since week 2, and we have the best game that we've had since week 1, and then we go to this game and Andy's not calling the plays, and we see things that one we shouldn't be seeing when it comes to situations on the sidelines. And it almost reverted back to the Green Bay game. How we scored, the play calls, things of that nature. That's my only, I guess, would be concern. And I think that's going to work itself out. I think that's going to be worked out, I should say. The players,
I would agree.
Yeah, the players know. Andy knows. It's just going to be a matter of when it's all going to finally just end at some point. It may not be this. I mean, I think we're going to get through the season just fine. I think and we have every shot, every chance to go back to the Super Bowl this year, just like every other
We have a
team.
good chance. We have a very great chance.
We do. As long as things just progress, I'm not worried about the offense as a whole. No, I'm worried about a little bit of the internal issue, but I think that's going to work itself out. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No, I think that's great insight, man. Thank you. The next one is from Sean Whittle. How is Rashawn Fitton? Well, we covered this earlier in the show, but Jay Powell just kind of cold through what you said earlier.
Last I heard, MRI didn't show much. He had some swelling. That can change, but right now, as of an hour and a half ago, he was not like terribly injured. But again, that can change. Wait for a phone call and find out. But if I get an update, I'll let you know on Twitter. But right now, it doesn't. At that point, I should say, it didn't look like it was going to be anything major.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to like what went on with Tyrann Mathieu this morning. I hadn't been on Twitter because I was working on our stuff for the brand, and somebody called me and said, what happened? Was it you that called me and asked me what happened to Tyrann Mathieu?
Yeah, because I saw, I forgot, maybe it was Nate, put out a tweet next, everyone. I was like, well, have you heard anything? Because I wasn't concerned, but I was like, I wonder what the problem is. But from what we got throughout the game and what you told me, something happened and it had some swelling, but he went out there and played like a man. He went out there and played like there was nothing stopping him. So I don't really know how much it affected him, but he showed up.
Well, he woke up with some swelling in his knee, and he was the first one out at Arrowhead. He was 4 hours earlier than everybody else. And he was out there just trying to figure out if he was going to be okay or not. They checked him out. They did everything they could. He was fine, played well. So, we just have to see what happens. When I found out, I'm
guessing he's fine. He'll probably be on the injury report, but that's kind of it.
Well, they had to. They didn't have a choice because they didn't know whether he was going to be able to play or not. But he was fine. And with Fenton, I don't know. I mean, we just have to let's see. Like I said, swelling when it comes to tests, a lot of times swelling hides things, and you don't see it until the swelling goes down. And once it does, then you'll know. But as of right now, it doesn't seem to be too serious, but that can change.
I agree, man. I agree. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate the insight once again, my friend. No the next question is html.jg. How can we fix the costly drops that have been killing good drives? It's just repetition and practice, man. When you look at the end of the day, they need to continue to practice like they're going to play and make sure that they're not thinking 3 steps ahead because you have to catch the ball before you try to run upfield. Yeah. And I think they'll figure it out with time. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The drop passes were less than what we've seen in the past. Now, granted, no one wanted to see that interception. It was very frustrating to see that. But I think they will figure it out. I am not worried from that standpoint. I think they will figure it out. But from what we've seen, every team has someone that's been dropping passes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a team out there that hasn't dropped a few. I watched a game today. I was watching multiple games prior to our game, and I think I probably saw 7 or 8 drop passes by one particular team within a half. So, and one player actually dropped 4 passes. So, again, that also partially goes back to the way the game plan's set up and how each play is called at the line of scrimmage. or before the play is started, before the snap. And I think if that goes back to how it was last week, that will go away as well. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I think that's great. That's very great. Last one of the night from Sean. Why are we so quick to once again stop running the ball quick underneath coverage quick passes when number 11 is eating our tackles lunch? Well, once again, I think like JP said earlier and what I stated, I think Andy's still trying to figure it out with his offense. I think the thing was the Chiefs is, and I didn't say this in the first question, they have the ability to get a first down in every single play when it comes to throwing the ball. And Andy has every play designed like that, which is important because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think he's slowly realizing running the ball is more important in certain aspects. Like you saw today, we drained out so much of the clock. Yeah, they had a pass here or there, but they continue to run the ball and drain out the clock. Demarcus Robinson, I know he didn't do any catches, but one thing I know about Robinson when he's out there and when he doesn't catch the ball, he blocks.
Yes.
Robinson is a great blocker. If everyone remembers the Hail Mary from when the last time the Chiefs played the Cowboys from 2017 season, watch that. Because Robinson had 2 key blocks, number 14. 2 key blocks that allowed Hill to score that touchdown. Today, Robinson had another wonderful block. So he has some use in this offense. I think he's going to show up and show up. I don't know if it's going to be his last season. That's another question. That's a question for another day. But from what I'm seeing so far is I think Robinson has a good spot for this team when it comes to certain positions. I really do.
And weirdly enough, that block he threw today was actually for Hill as well. Mm-hmm. So
it's a great block. We've really seen him. He may not catch the ball all the time, but he has great blocks that have been very beneficial.
Yep. So, it all boils down to balance, and it all boils down to Andy just breaking his mold a little bit. And again, we do have an offensive line that now is able to open the holes up and allow us to run. He also he loves to pass. He always has. It's just something he loves to do. And he did do a lot more running today than I expected. Especially with Clyde. I didn't expect that at all. I don't think anybody really did. But that was more of a statement game. And Clyde came out, and I think he was averaging 5 to 7.
He was saying 6. He was saying about 6 yards of carry, and I thought it was a little less. But other than that, that just showed you he was putting the work today. He was putting the work. And this offensive line is very, very beneficial because you don't know what they're going to do from a standpoint, and they just continue to push through like no other. Creed, in my opinion, maybe should have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Excuse me, because the way he's doing, he's serving up playing K blocks every single week. Yeah. So I'm very happy with what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah. I mean, they've really stepped it up. Let's see. Nolan Rogers, another great fan of ours, diehard Chiefs fan. He said, "Are we worried about the offense?" I think we covered that a little bit, Nolan. Not at all. Again, the only thing I'm really concerned with is who's calling the plays.
Two different halves we're seeing.
Exactly. And I think that's more of a situation that, when and we've seen this, now we see it firsthand, and we know where it's at. It's not something that we were making up or, just telling stories on Twitter to say it. I think it's very visible, and it's going to have to change at some point, and it will. Mm-hmm. So right now we're winning 4 straight, just beat a 7-2 football team that, looked to be supposedly by everybody else's mindset, looked to be invincible. And at one point, even Troy Aikman said the 2 top quarterbacks in the NFL going head to head today. I don't know where he came up with that one, but we did have one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, but I don't know about the other. He's a good quarterback, but I don't know if he's one of the tops. Especially after seeing what we've seen today. But
for sure.
It just goes to show you that we're resilient, and right now one half is picking up the other half, or they're playing together. Last week 41-14. This week 19 to 6, 9.
Yep, 19-9. We won. That's great. I never think